Today's episode of Adapt and Respond is sponsored by Surely This Ain't Shandy, the only alcoholic beer brewed with the tears of an ex-girlfriend who just saw you glow up, king. The might and power within the interior of Grayskull. That delicious look Evelyn gives Skeletor when he is absolutely going in. And the once proud dirty blonde mane of a microbrewer gone bankrupt. Surely This Ain't Shandy ain't for the weak, but it ain't for catching bodies like that one that rhymes with loco and faux show. We don't mess with drugs on this show. Enjoy Surely This Ain't Shandy responsibly. In a brown paper bag. In the yard. Slamming dominoes. But no talking over the board. Matter of fact, how many books you got anyway? You old sandbagging behind. All right, let's start the show. What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond college football podcast, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, consider joining the more than 178,000 subscribers to Adapt and Respond college football podcast. You can also catch us on the Spotify, on the Apple, where you can download the podcast, listen to the podcast. We have been doing really, really well with the podcast, both on video and on the audio part. I'm always going to do video first and YouTube first and YouTube segments here, but I've been astonished at just how many of y'all really like not just the audio podcast, but the longer formatted shows where you get to hear me go on about a topic or two, right, over the course of 20, 30 minutes, playing with the format here, but it seems to be a hit. If it isn't, you need to tell me. If it is, I also need you to tell me, because the only way that I know if it's working is if y'all are watching it or not. But like, I'm up here and I'm recapping the week now, right? I'm recapping the week because Charlie Baker came out with something new here that has Brendan Sorsby at the middle of it, but also a piece of legislation that is near and dear to his heart. But we're also talking about Texas Tech pressure in the Big 12. We have also been talking about Texas's AG, Ken Paxton, who's also running for Senate, threatening the Big 12 on behalf of Texas Tech. We have also been talking about how Oklahoma's AG has come through and said, nah, that's a bunch of poppycock over there, Ken Paxton's right. Let me tell you about what I'm writing over here and how I got the Big 12's back, right? Obviously, Oklahoma State is a Big 12 school, and not unlike Ken Paxton, who is the Attorney General running for Senate, Getting a Drummond is the Attorney General of Oklahoma, who is running for governor as a Republican, which basically means, in this state, you're going to win. I was amazed at how many of y'all just don't know what the politics is in Oklahoma. But I will remind you once again that 2016 presidential election, all 77 counties in the state of Oklahoma went red. All right. And I believe something like 75 or 76 went red in 2024, right? You get the point. There's only 7 electoral college votes here, but there's really no ifs, ands, and buts about who's going to win them. That said, I thought maybe this is a greater play for Drummond to, win the governorship. But then I was thinking about, it's like, does he really need this help? No. I think he also likes being a part of it and also likes throwing stuff. We also made the NCAA an easier target this go round because we are using court cases in states across the country to circumvent long-standing eligibility rules. Like, the thing that's been fascinating for me to watch as we talk about Trinidad Chambliss, Owen Heineke at Oklahoma, Joey Aguilar at Tennessee. These are 3 prominent. 2 went players' way, 1 did not. Aguilar's playing in the NFL now. And now Brendan Sorsby. There's also a player at Clemson. Been through this. We've had judges that are looking at NCAA eligibility requirements and thumbing their nose at them. And the reasons that they're thumbing their nose at them, I mean, they're all over the map, right? But essentially, we haven't had anyone that wants to challenge the eligibility rules in college sports basically since the 1950s, right? GI Bill comes on. Oklahoma being one of those teams that went out to go get, some 23, 24, 25-year-old men to go play college football. Everybody's looking around like, yo, since when you playing with a semi-pro team? And win 47 straight that way. We really haven't had many folks that challenge this, and for good reason. College is not a place where you want to be for a long time, right? College is a place you're trying to get out of. I make this point. Maurice Clarett is an Ohio State legend for what he was able to do as a true freshman with the Buckeyes. And he was so good that he didn't want to stay in college anymore because he couldn't make any money. So while his buying power or selling power was so big, he wanted to get to the NFL. The NFL says, no, you got to be 3 years removed from high school to play in our league. He chose to challenge that in court, and the NFL ultimately won. I submit to you, in 2026, Maurice Clarett has a huge true freshman season. He's going to be trying to play for another 10 years. I'm being hard on Maurice Clarett here, but you get my point, right? We're seeing players that are fighting for eligibility, stuff that happened in JUCO or medical red shirts or 15 minutes of lacrosse in the coach at Owen Heineke, or who have flat out broken the rules in a way that is egregious in Brendan Sorsby, and they're still trying to play college football. Why? Because you can make a lot of money playing college football now. And the NFL money will or will not be there. And we also have this really interesting tax that's being put on players. I say tax in air quotes because you will make less in most cases, right, as a big-time college football quarterback as a rookie in the NFL. So Carson Beck comes to mind. $4 million reported at Miami. Because he wasn't drafted first round, he's going to make less money in his first year in the NFL than he did as a player at Miami. This is not just him. This is across the board because there's no salary cap in college football. And a lot of people would like there to be one, and I think the Protect College Sports Act would like to get closer to that as well. Bill that's put forth by Maria Cantwell and Ted Cruz, which is funny because Ted Cruz is a senator who has always been about limiting government, and this is big government. But you also see a lot of people that are saying, hey, somebody got to do something because this is out of hand. I don't know that it's out of hand when it comes to name, image, and likeness or when it comes to how much the players are getting paid. I do think it's out of hand when the NCAA and the college commissioners, the commissioners of each of the major conferences can't come to an agreement on what the rules should be and then enforce them. That is out of hand. And because they can't agree, they're all looking at Congress. For me, you are a grown man that wears a suit to work. You ought to be able to figure this out with other grown men who wear a suit to work. Instead, is getting to be with retired judges like Ken Curry in the state of Texas who get to tell you what you're going to do in the case of Brendan Sorsby. And the reason that Brendan Sorsby has become such a big topic and issue is he gambled on his own team. First, he gambled, which is a no-no, right? We got a quarterback at Iowa State who placed a $15 bet who's made ineligible, couldn't play college football anymore. But it's going to be okay for Brendan Sorsby, who bet $90,000 over 4 years, made over 10,000 bets, had a sportsbook account with a friend of his that had just 60 grand dropped in it, and bet on his own team while at Indiana. These are no-nos. These are not just no-nos. These are offenses. These are things that get you banned from playing the sport ever again. Texas Tech, though, has backed Brendan Sorsby's play every step of the way, even trying to put out its own PR campaign earlier this week to try to sway your opinion around what you think Texas Tech should be doing or is doing for Brendan Sorsby. The problem with all of this is that it is on its face very self-serving. Because behind Brendan Sorsby is a quarterback named Kirk Francis. And if you didn't know Kirk Francis' name before, it's probably because you didn't go to the University of Tulsa and watch them play football. Okay? Kirk Francis is so-so. And I say that as a guy that watched him play high school football at Metro, right? Came up, made it happen. Then went into the portal, came out with a little bit of money. It's going to be the third-string quarterback. Back up, right, until Will Hammond gets right with his knee. And then you go sign Brendan Sorsby. He's going to make a reported $5 million across NIL and revenue sharing until such a time as we learn that, over the last 4 years before I got to Texas Tech, I was gambling in Indiana. I was gambling in Ohio. Oh, by the way, I was starting quarterback in Cincinnati the last 2 years. What? And now you have Texas Tech president, Texas Tech athletic director, Texas Tech head coach, and its biggest booster, and Cody Campbell going, it's not us that's wrong. It's y'all that's wrong. Talking about the NCAA's rules are antiquated, and that's the reason we broke them. What? Or that's the reason that we don't think that the breaking of them should merit anything further than a suspension, right? And we have all these other ways in which we're taking care of Brendan Sorsby. That's all great. That's cool. We love that you're taking care of Brendan Sorsby, and we should make folks that got kids that go into Texas Tech feel good about how they're taking care of them. What ain't going to make them feel good is that you're backing this dude to play college football when you know damn well that that ain't the play. That ain't what you're supposed to be doing out here. And if he was not a great football player, will we be having this conversation? That is an honest question that I'm not sure we will always get an honest answer to, right? So earlier this morning, NCAA's president, Charlie Baker, who has taken that out of his, maybe it never was, in his X account bio, but it's funny to me that he goes son, father, husband, you know what I mean, in his, son, dad, husband, neighbor in his bio, rather than, I was the governor of Massachusetts, and now I run the NCAA, because it ain't fun to run no NCAA. But he put out this on the tweets. He said, the Sorsby decision was never about only one student athlete. We are already seeing downhill effects in other eligibility cases in which state courts are allowing student athletes to circumvent long-standing eligibility rules, citing Sorsby's outcome as part of their court's precedent. Another example of why we need Congress to pass the Protect College Sports Act, authorizing the association to apply common sense eligibility rules consistently for student athletes and schools, regardless of the state or local court system. So he also puts a part of an opinion about a Clemson player down here that is citing, what had just gone on for Brendan Sorsby as a way in which some players and their counsel are trying to circumnavigate the eligibility rules. I don't think that the Protect College Sports Act needs to empower the NCAA. And the reason I say that is because the NCAA has the power that is, its power comes from its member institution really saying we will abide by what it is you say do. That is to say, we have hired you to tell us what is right and what is wrong, and we agree on these bylaws, so we will all suffer the penalties if we break them. That's not true. I actually got a quote in my story about how I believe the college football commissioner that we have is called local judge. And I got a Big 12 assistant coach that told me that we're all too greedy. And we all do not want the rules to apply to us, and we want the screws turned to everybody else. And I thought that that was good enough to put it in the piece. And I also think that speaks to the moment, because the NCAA is a really easy target. It's an extremely easy target. So much so that I don't like bringing it up, because I like to think that people are smarter than this. But I'm going to lay this out in crayon, because I also see this in the comments of this very smart show. The NCAA is corrupt. No, it is not. The NCAA is bad at its job. Not really. The NCAA is the reason that we have all of this wild chaos in college football. It really isn't. The NCAA is an institution empowered by its 1,600 plus members to look after all of the sports, right? What we've come to find out, though, is that when they want to sanction you, you're going to fight them tooth and nail. From Michigan and the $30 million fine that they've been levied for cheating, to the eligibility of Brendan Sorsby at Texas Tech, to the level 1 violations that have been thrown out over the last 20 plus years. The death penalty might have been the only huge, massive misstep that the NCAA has made on its own by itself. Given that death penalty to SMU, really invited everybody else to go, oh, we better guard what is ours then. Because if they're willing to do this to us because players got paid, then we got to protect ourselves, because, the culture is players are getting paid under the table. That was the culture. And the bag man is very well known in college football circles. But I would like you to turn your attention away from the NCAA, not because the NCAA doesn't have problems, but because the problems that you're assigning to the NCAA can readily be assigned to college football, period. Full stop. To college sports, period. Full stop. You can talk about how television has ruined the sport, and I'm not going to listen to you, because television has been a part of the sport since the 1950s. And if anything, television has elevated the game and forced it to be even more transparent than it would like to be. Think about it this way. How often do you like to know who is injured on your football team? Now, consider that it wasn't until 2 years ago that we got injury reports in college football. But you get injury reports in the NFL since as long as I've been alive, right? And a lot of this comes because gambling became legal in 2018. That's changed a lot of the focus for how people consume sports and what they look afterward, from daily fantasy to sports books to now the rise of prediction markets, right? Where you can bet on almost anything. What I am really trying to get across to you is that if the NCAA can help Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell position Brendan Sorsby as the poster player for change, that might also be a good thing. That might work, because the Brendan Sorsby story is breaking through. I know it's breaking through because we've added 31,000 subscribers to this channel in the last 6 weeks, right? In the last month. In large part because, not unlike this thing called the World Cup that is happening now, is dominated the sports conversation, and at a time in the calendar when there really isn't much else going on. Like, I'm going to watch Formula One. I'm also going to pat myself on the back here at the 16-minute mark, because I went down to Bentonville and I took third place in Gravelicious in my age group, only to come back so I could do this show. Yes, you will find me on a gravel bike. You'll find me on a roadie. You'll find me on a mountain bike soon enough. But right now, I like the longer, harder stuff. That's what she said. Anyway, the point that I would like to make with all of this is that if Brendan Sorsby's story continues to have the traction that it does, especially going into what is a pivotal Big 12 media days coming up, it's only going to grow. Now, the SEC and the Big 10 are not on board with this, and Ted Cruz seems to think that he can get this done without their support. I submit to you, that's probably not going to happen. But you also got Greg Sankey, who has outlined for many, especially those, I say many because now it's public, but for his members and their presidents, why he doesn't like this thing. And a big part of it has to do with curtailing what the SEC might be able to do, just as the SEC. What we've seen is Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell point at the Big Ten and the SEC, y'all are too powerful. We need to bring y'all in. Okay, good luck with that, right? Now, they got to get everybody else to agree to get them on this. But the big legal worry right now is the sovereign immunity, right? Homeboy Brandon Marcello actually makes this really great point. The SEC says the bill's private right of action could effectively waive it for public universities, and that restricting arbitration could void existing athlete deals. Sankey believes this will lead to more litigation, not less. As written, state law only loses if it both conflicts and blocks compliance with the bill. The league wants that extended to recruiting, tampering, non-NIL pay, and, quote, prevents compliance, end quote, requirement removed. Like, that's not a terrible idea. The one that I think is going to catch most attention, though, is the SEC isn't against the conference's pooling rights, media rights, but it does want to talk about the language, right, as it is drafted, because it wants you to be able to pool your rights being voluntary as opposed to involuntary. Right now, there's a trigger in the bill that says that you basically need 103 of the 138 FBS teams to agree to wanting to pool their rights, for everybody to have to pool all of their rights, and then the television networks bid on them. That would really change the way that we watch college sports, period. Because then the Big Ten would not be necessarily just on Fox, CBS, and NBC. It could be on all of the networks. It could be on none of the networks. And the thought for many was, okay, if we do this, we will create even more money for us all to make more money at a time when we need more money. That's not necessarily true. And most good analysts will point to, let me tell you why that's not true. For me, the simplest way is to put it this way. I do not value Ohio State, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Texas football the way similarly to Fresno State, Hawaii, Texas State, Northern Illinois. I don't. I will not watch Bowling Green with the same sort of interest that I will watch Michigan. And there's a good reason as to why. One of those teams is much more competitive than the other, okay? And even in the best of times, Bowling Green going 12-0 is tantamount to Boise State going 12-0. Or James Madison going 12-0. It's a nice story. It will break into national media, but only in the C block. What we're going to talk about is, why is Michigan 3-9? Like, that's it. And only someone who doesn't like college football would tell you that they value the sport across the board the same. I watch all the games. I do. I watch all of the games. That's why my top 25, my 138 have merit. But I also am going to tell you, you're going to have a hard time finding me writing about Sacramento State during the season unless they are absolutely destroying people. Meanwhile, guess what's always going to be at the top of mind? What those teams consistently in the top 25 are going to do. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. I'll include Tennessee now, LSU. Like, I keep going, right? The Power 4 schools. And seeing as the Power 4 schools only make up about half of the FBS, why would I pay full price when all I want is the top half?